Does somebody have to admit the attendees?
Steve, I guess.
No, they'll participate as attendees, right?
Oh, hold on, just give me, I know what I'm doing, just give me a minute. Everybody will be in. Yeah, I will. Just wait, please. Am I being muted here?
I don't know. Am I muted?
No,
Am I muted?
You're okay, Steve. I heard you.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback on mine.
I hear you.
All right, okay, I'm going to start this webinar now. No. Okay, I'm starting right now.
Okay, three,
Okay,
two,
you're
one.
good.
I'd like to open the public session of council, January 20th, 2021, Borough of Forest Hills Council meeting. Pledge of Allegiance, Mayor Porco, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the
to the
flag
flag of the United
United
States
States of America and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
Is
one nation, under God,
God
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Roll call, please, Mr. Morris.
Mr. Brule,
Here.
Ms. DeMarco,
Here,
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Here.
Mr. Gorel,
Here.
Mr. Lawrence,
Here.
Mr. Thielacker.
Here.
Mr. Tomasic,
Here.
Mayor Porco,
Here,
Ms. Sullivan,
Here.
Mr. Corbel.
Here.
Mr. Gilliland,
Present.
and I'm present as well. And I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm not sure if anyone else is too.
I'm not.
I'm okay.
Okay, if I don't respond, it could be that reason, because I'm hearing things like happening that happened 30 seconds ago.
Okay.
Just go ahead. Don't worry about me.
All right. It would normally be the mayor, Mayor Porco, who would be giving this award. However, due to the COVID restrictions, I have the privilege of presenting this award to Pat Lanigan, the 2020 Marty B. O'Malley Citizenship Award. And it reads, in recognition of his community leadership and for his steadfast support of so many activities in Forest Hills. Mr. Lanigan is a community asset in so many ways. He leads the effort to host a popular community day each year, assisted with the borough's first light up night activity, and participated in the planning and presentation of centennial activities, among many other efforts. For his commitment to the borough of Forest Hills, Mayor and Council hereby recognize Mr. Lanigan with this award.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very, very much for this award. I'm deeply honored, and I'm very appreciative of it. I'm very humbled by it also when I think of all the efforts that you folks put into keeping this borough such a magnificent place to live and the place to be from. What I do pales in comparison to what all of you do. All of the volunteers of this community, the firemen and our public officials, and this really means a lot to me, and I'm extremely humbled by this. And you know, you guys, you folks work as a team to make the borough run, to make it operate. And you can't do it on your own. You can't make the decisions on your own. You rely on each other, and that's the same with all these any volunteer activities. You know, we have some great folks, especially Community Day with Linda Malik and Nick Ritchie, that really help out so very much, and also all the volunteers that people from the community, from the churches, from the Boy Scouts, to that come together on that day to really have a special day in our community. I give those folks all the credit too. And I share this award with all those folks that I mentioned. And I just want to say thank you. It's deeply appreciated. I don't take this lightly at all. It's deeply appreciated. And again, I appreciate all the work that you folks put in to keep this borough as highly elevated as it is in our community. So I just want to thank you very much. You guys are all terrific and very, very appreciative. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you heard from Mr. Lanigan. Thank you for coming, Mr. Lanigan. It's appreciated. Okay, President's report at this time. I have nothing to state other than everybody just continue to be safe. We're hoping that we're going to get the vaccine distributed, but it's going to take some time. Please all be patient, stay safe, and let's get through this together. An executive session will be held following tonight's meeting to discuss personnel issues. That brings us to the mayor's report. Mayor Porco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll open my report by, first of all, wishing everybody a happy new year and welcome to another year of borough business. And also just wanted to take a moment to congratulate Pat Lanigan. Pat truly is someone who cares deeply about the community he lives in. I've always kind of thought of Pat as the unofficial mayor of Forest Hills. And the work that he puts into our community is just tireless, and it just speaks of his devotion and his love for his community. So I could not be happier for him, and congratulations once again to him. On Friday, December 18th of last year, I believe that Forest Hills has found itself a new tradition, which was our inaugural Holiday Light Tour, which was a great new tradition in Forest Hills that evolved from a house decorating contest that as much as myself and Councilman Tom Thielacker would love to take credit for it, it actually was the idea of Tom's fiance, Amber Gobrish, who put together this thought about, hey, wouldn't it be nice to have a house decorating contest, especially with COVID being the case. It'll be a nice way to kind of engage the community. And so we did just that. We had, I think, over almost 30 entries into the contest. The first place winner was Jean Marie Jacobs. Second place winner this year was Vince Donofrio. And the third place winner was Sandy and Ed Best. And so congratulations to the winners. And kind of as a last minute decision, we decided, wouldn't it be nice to have a holiday tour? And so we did just that. We kind of put the word out on social media thinking we'd maybe get 15, 20 cars, and it was well over 50 vehicles that participated in the Holiday Light Tour. So I just wanted to thank all the folks that came out who participated in the Holiday Tour. And I also wanted to thank all the neighbors and residents who stood out on their porch and waved and stood in their windows. It was very nice to kind of see the community get so involved in it. And I also wanted to take a moment to thank the Forest Hills Fire Department as well as the Forest Hills Police Department for their assistance in kind of keeping us on track. And also wanted to thank Chief Williams for coming up with the actual tour map that we had put together for seeing all the holiday lights. On Sunday, December 20th, the Kaylee Lynn McDowell Foundation held its annual cookie walk. This year, because of COVID restrictions, they had to get a little creative and actually turned it into a cookie drive-through in partnership with Oakmont Bakery. But it once again was very successful. People from the entire Forest Hills and Woodland Hills area came out to support this very successful event in Forest Hills. Again, all the cookies sold out. It was a fantastic turnout. And then I wanted to spend just a minute talking about the events of January 7th, which have come to be known, I guess, as Insurrection Day in our community. And basically what I consider to be an attack on our democracy as we know it, our way of life as we know it. And this, I believe, evolved from what happens when elected leaders lose focus of their purpose, which is to serve the constituents who elected them to their positions, and instead get wrapped up in their own personal agendas and their own concerns. It was shocking. I can't tell you how many of my colleagues on council made comments to this effect, friends of mine, complete strangers in just random conversations, just appalled and shocked at what we saw unfold in front of us on our TVs. And so as elected officials ourselves, I would just, I guess, caution everybody to kind of walk away from that understanding that, our number one goal as elected officials in our town is to make sure that we're serving our community, serving our constituents, serving our residents, and personal agendas, personal feelings should be left aside, and we should be focusing on the work at hand when we come to our meetings. And then today we ushered in a new president, Joe Biden, and nice to see a traditional and peaceful transition of power, just as we've always enjoyed in this country. So I would just ask that we all please keep him in our thoughts and or prayers, and wish him success over the next 4 years. And with that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Sullivan, tax collector's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our tax collector report is for the month of December 2020. During the month of December, our real estate collections totaled $70,151. During the month, there were refunds issued of $1,454. So after refunds, our total collections were $68,697. Year to date, our collections totaled $2,904,667, and our budgeted figure was $2,912,587, and that is 99% of the budgeted figure for the year, and that's the end of the report.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Chief of Police report, Chief Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to let everybody know that I know I sent the police reports and public safety to the council members, but I wanted to note that if you would happen to see the end number for incidents and just general crime, you're going to see a huge difference in the number from last year to this year. During 2020, we had a reduction in many of the crimes, and we had a general reduction in the incidents we responded to. I'm sure you can expect it to be because of COVID, and generally that's exactly what it is. But I noticed, I wanted to let you know that if you would look at the reports from last year and this year, you would see there's a substantial difference of about 600 lesser incidents because of the COVID situation. Secondly, I'd like to mention that back on December 20th, we also were involved in a toy giveaway with the Swissvale, Edgewood, Braddock Hills, Wilkins, Churchill, and Wilkinsburg police departments down in the Edgewood Town Center. And at that point, I know it was televised. Some people had covered it where they showed the officers passing out the toys to the individuals. And, we were fortunate to become involved in that. We were invited in, and, we were glad to participate in such a thing because at Christmas time, everybody deserves to get their toy. And some people just aren't lucky enough to have that option. So we were glad to be able to help out with that. That's the extent of my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chief. Let's see, moving on. The next item would be, I believe, the solicitor's report. Mr. Corbel.
Nothing to report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. Wilkinsburg Penn Joint, I believe that was sent out by Mr. Morse. Vivian is not with us at this time. That takes us to other committee board reports. Ms. DeMarco, whatever you would like to speak to under those committees or
Thank you.
reports.
I have just a reminder that we are participating in a number of joint programs with the Congress of Neighboring Communities Connect, and we will be providing some input on the joint climate action plan that's being developed by our neighboring communities based on the work that we have done. Secondly, the Allegheny League of Municipalities is requesting recertification of our pledge to be in the banner communities. I am going to be executing that on behalf of Forest Hills because we did receive a Banner Community Award last year, and I presume we will want to continue with that effort. The COVID has limited a number of things that are traditional in that regard, but we are participating to the extent we can under COVID. That's all I have to report this evening.
Okay, thank you. PA Municipal League, anything, Mr. Lawrence?
No, nothing to report, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. And the Turtle Creek COG, Mr. Thielacker?
No report.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to the public comment section of the meeting. All persons wishing to address items based on the explanation below will be heard at this time. Use the raise hand icon on the bottom of the Zoom screen to request to speak following announcement of the start of the public comment period. This period focuses on both agenda and non-agenda items. At this time, citizens may address council on any issue appearing on today's agenda or any other issue you may wish to bring before council. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Forest Hills will be permitted to address council. This is the only public comment period for this meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before council, who may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. And please spell your name for the record. Speakers are reminded that council uses these comment periods as opportunities to gather information and not to respond directly to concerns raised. Information gathered will not be discussed at the business meeting, but instead will be referred by the council president to the appropriate committee for review and discussion at the next committee meetings. So this is the public comment period. Does anybody wish to comment at this time? Use the icon and then you will be recognized.
We have 2 raised hands, 3. So,
I just let Angelo in. Angelo.
Okay. My name is Angelo Baiocchi. That's Baioccchi. I live at 828 Sherwood Road. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, and council members. I'm here representing a group of residents as well as the Environmental Advisory Council to speak in support of improving communications to all residents. It's one of the topics of your agenda this evening. I'm aware that council has been considering updating the emergency notification system for some time. As an IT professional, I've been involved in establishing similar systems in the past. In preparation for this evening's meeting, I reviewed several of these systems in use across the country by small and large municipalities and found that the system being looked at by council, Savvy Citizen, is by and large highly recommended. In fact, in Allegheny County alone, Savvy Citizen is in use by 30 communities, which include locally Braddock Hills, Chalfont, North Versailles, Penn Hills, Pitcairn, Swissvale, Turtle Creek, Wilkins, and Wilmerding. While this notification system is welcome and long overdue, it is not a comprehensive communications plan. It is a necessary and important component, but does not address the day-to-day needs of the community. Open government requires a clear and concise strategic communications plan. The borough needs a cohesive way to manage and encourage community engagement. The community includes residents, businesses, civic and religious organizations, visitors, and those individuals and businesses seeking to relocate, to name but a few. Presently, we have a website, Tree City Times, Tree City TV, Swift Reach, and Twitter to convey important information, but we lack any metrics to evaluate their impact. Moreover, there are limited opportunities for resident feedback, and conversely, limited opportunities for this municipality to effectively reach out to residents. As an example, we are missing an opportunity by not having an email opt-in for residents on our website. This would allow us to email a monthly newsletter or important updates to those users as required. The more we can motivate citizen participation, the stronger we are as a society. There is no single tool or method that can solve all communications issues. Therefore, we encourage and recommend to Council the formation of a committee to develop an action plan with target dates to establish a comprehensive communications plan for Forest Hills in the interest of reaching the widest possible community audience. I would be willing to participate on that committee as a community representative to lend my expertise and experience to the process. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I'm going to mute Angelo, and Mr. Riley is also have his hand raised. So Mr. Riley, you may go ahead.
Yes, hi. My name's Noah Riley, Noah I live at 613 Barclay Avenue. And I am on here today with another resident because we are interested in exploring a possibility of community garden in Forest Hills neighborhoods. There's particularly one lot next to my house that is an abandoned lot that is maintained by the borough. And we are not sure if there's a path forward for this kind of project or something like this has been done before. So we're just wanting to raise the idea and the issue of bringing community gardens to Forest Hills and how we might go about doing something like that.
Are you finished?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
the next person that has their hand raised is Deidre Keller, and Deidre is now authorized to speak. Deidre? Yeah, I'm not getting anything from Deidre, so Ethan Berry has a hand raised. So Ethan Berry, you are authorized to speak.
Evening. My name's Ethan Berry. I'm a resident of Forest Hills. Are you hearing me?
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to raise I provided my address with the registration for this meeting. I'd like to raise a safety concern with these board meetings being posted to YouTube. As long as the borough is posting to YouTube, including that would include residents' address and other information. I would ask that confirming that the residents of Forest Hills is all that we would have to do during these recorded sessions. It's a safety issue because you're posting these to YouTube and it is to the general population. I know that these do not go out to very many people, and not very many people watch them. But in this day and age of doxing, cancel culture, and identity theft, I choose to protect my what little privacy I left when I'm online. I asked the borough to stop requiring residents to provide this information during the recorded sessions unless this information is edited out of the YouTube video or until the borough no longer posts the meetings, meeting videos on YouTube. I know if it's recorded, then it is a security risk for residents of the borough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to lower all hands here and ask if anybody else still wants to speak to raise your hand again, because I wasn't sure. I was getting a little bit confused here with who had their hand up. Is there anyone else who wants to raise their hand to speak? Mr. Tomasic, I don't see anybody else raising their hand, so I think we're finished.
Okay, very quickly to Ethan's part, we'll have to look into his concerns. Angela, we can put that on the ops and policy. I believe that would be Ethan Berry's concerns as well. And for Noah Riley, I would just like to suggest that we do have a couple of garden groups, flower and garden groups within the community. And we can get back to you with that information. That might help you out. Okay, moving on.
Mr. Tomasic,
Yes.
can I bring an issue up to Mr. Corbel at this time? It's in regards to Ethan Berry's comment.
No, we don't really want to get into it at this time.
We're not getting into a discussion, but I think it's a very valid point. So I was going to ask Mr. Corbel if this is something that we could discuss this evening after the call in our executive session.
Yeah, it would require legal advice, so it would be a topic for executive session.
Okay.
And whether the council discusses it tonight, that's up to council. But it is an executive session issue.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, moving on to the committee reports, operations and policy, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to approve the minutes from the December 16th, 2020 council meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? Okay, none being, voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
I propose a motion to authorize the manager to sign and submit an engagement letter with Cohen Law Group regarding negotiating a new cable TV agreement with Comcast under the program with the Turtle Creek Valley COG.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions and or comments? None being, roll call vote, please. Mr. Morris.
Mr. Brulé? Mr. Brulé? I'm not sure if he's answering or not. Ms. DeMarco?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Brulé said yes. Mr. Erbaldinger?
Yes.
Mr. Goro?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker?
Yes.
President Tomasic?
Yes, motion carries.
A motion to appoint Jordan Toney of Cascade Road to the Environmental Advisory Council to fill a vacancy in the board as a regular member with the term to expire on February 28, 2023.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions and or comments? Okay, none being, roll call vote, please. Mr. Morris.
Mr. Brulé?
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger?
Yes.
Mr. Goro?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker?
Yes.
President Tomasic?
Yes, motion carries.
All right, under general report, well, the issue of the communication system's already been mentioned. I'll bring up one thing. Rumors seem to always be flying about whether glass is allowed in the recycling bins in Forest Hills. It is allowed, and we are in the last year of the contract. That may change. There's certainly movement within the county to find alternative, more effective methods of recycling. But the confusion arises that in different municipalities near us that have different contracts and different carriers, glass is not being accepted. But in the Forest Hills recycling program, you are still free to put glass in your recycling. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Finance Committee, please, Ms. DeMarco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a motion to approve the payment of bills for the month of December in the following amounts. For the general fund budget, $149,513.53. For the corrective action budget, $368,865.85. For the fire protection fee, $5,338.57. For road improvements, $35,904.02. And for the capital improvements plan, $9,666.84.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments concerning this motion? None being, roll call vote, please, Mr. Morris.
Mr. Brule,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger, Mr. Erbaldinger,
yes,
Mr. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. I have just two things to highlight on our general report. One is that we are expecting a proposal for our audit from Case Sabatini that has not arrived yet, and we will act on that when it does. And in February, we will be looking at assigning bond issue categories for the capital improvements. And we are going to be negotiating agreements with Public Works Service and Police Services with Chalfont, and our waste management will be going under ops and policy. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marco. Next committee up, I should say, Borough Property, Mr. Thielacker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one motion. That's motion to move Chris Mamikos from a Recreation Board alternate member to a regular member to fill a vacancy with that term to expire on February 28th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions and or comments? None being, roll call vote, please, Mr. Morris.
Mr. Brule,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
yes,
Mr. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion carries.
And then for my general report, just a couple things. The fire department roof has been completed. And we're investigating pickleball courts at Cook Park. We have the recreation board doing some research for us. They're going to put some in the Tree City Times. They have a little survey that's going to put online about kind of, as well as pickleball courts, what are people's feelings about what they want to see at Cook Park. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thielacker. Planning and zoning, Mr. Brule.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have any motions today, but under my general report, we talked to Mr. Branzel regarding some issues such as the barrel tree on Hawthorne, and that the owner is responsible for the repair. A big discussion we had trying to see if we could reach a decision on that, and we did. And also, there's some issues that were discussed regarding rubbish and some landlord tenant issues. And if you want more information, I'm pretty sure Don would give it to you. And that's it in my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brule. Public Works Committee, Mr. Gorel.
I move to authorize the engineer to advertise for bids for the MS4 detention pond project with funds already available from a PA small water and sewer grant for $150,000 for this project, while the borough covers the remaining cost.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions and or comments?
The only comment I wanted to add to this is for the public, as you can see under item A, under item A, it looks like the borough will be responsible for roughly $88,000 of this project. The majority of this was covered by a grant that we will not have to pay back.
I'd like our engineer to report on that, please. Could you give us a chronology as to how this particular detention pond came about, and also with the grant that we're getting from the state?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you. This project is a result of a requirement in our municipal separate storm sewer permit. It's a permit required by the federal government and the state. The permit was issued in 2018. So that's when we began to study this. The requirement is that the borough reduce the amount of sediment going into what is known as Falls Run. It's the stream that actually is mostly underground, but runs the whole length of the borough from all the way from Sherwood Road down to into East Pittsburgh. At the time, we were proposing a number of projects to comply with this permit, one being on Watt Lane with the stream bank restoration, but that would not fully satisfy our requirement as far as the amount of sediment that we had to remove from the stormwater stream. At that time, Mr. Tomasic, I believe, mentioned that we had that pond behind the park and ride lot on Avenue B at Ardmore, and that possibly we could use that for the removal of the catching of sediment and removal from the stream. And there was a perfect solution because that is one of the most downhill, that is the most downhill location of that Falls Run in the borough. So, and the borough does not own the property, but owns the adjacent property and was able to get an easement onto the property to do this work. So that would satisfy 100% of the requirements of the permit, put us in compliance actually several years early because the permit expires in 2023. That's when we have to have the project completed. And it would actually save the borough about $210,000 by going this route. It saves us even more in the fact that we applied for a Pennsylvania Small Water and Sewer Grant and were awarded that actually last spring. However, due to COVID, nothing happened then, but we were the recipient of this grant for $150,000. We're actually very fortunate because that program was not funded in the new state budget that was passed in June of 2020. So if we would not have gotten it last year, we would not even be able to get it this year because the program was unfunded. So therefore, the borough's cost, we were going to spend $210,000 on the Watt Lane project, which, as I said, would not even fully comply with the permit. We're ending up spending about $88,000 and matching that with $150,000 from the state, and we will be 100% compliance with the requirements of the permit and in good standing with the state.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Goro?
That's all.
Okay, thank you.
We didn't vote.
Wait. Yeah, we didn't
no
vote.
You need to vote, Mr. Tomasic.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, we need a roll call vote. So, Mr. Morris, please.
Mr. Burley,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Yes.
Mr. Goro,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion carries. Is he, Mr. Gore, are you on? You still want to continue?
Yeah, the only other comment I had underneath my report was the engineer and the foreman are compiling a list for 2021 paving. We will be discussing at our February committee meetings, just to let the public know, since there are a few people on, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to public safety, Mr. Erbaldinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no motions tonight, and my general report can be read in the agenda. And that concludes my report for today.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to old business. There's nothing listed there, and there's nothing under new business. So in that case, meeting is adjourned. We have the exec session coming up.
Okay, I will need to stop recording and stop YouTube, so give me a few seconds. The attendees will have to also leave, or we'll have to remove you from the room because exec session is private. So,
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you for attending.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Can I speak, Mr. Corbel? Are you ready